Cool. I think we're live, so I'm just going to check. And yeah, I think we're live. I think we've been live for about 10 seconds. Hello and welcome to 2021. I haven't done a stream yet, and I figured I would. I've been quite tired recently, so this felt like a nice kind of way to get into things. And so what I'm going to be looking at today is just exploring this idea of helping out musicians use Excel. Basically, everyone uses Excel for everything. Everyone uses Excel for things they probably shouldn't use it for, to be honest with you. But it's pretty much a linchpin for huge amounts of the work, like just loads of different elements of our day-to-day work. And especially with things kind of working more remotely, I think this is only going to increase. So I asked a while ago to get people's feedback and opinion on the kind of things that they used Excel for, and I figured even just for me as a good kind of starting point, we're going to be testing out making a pupil list. And yeah, so we're just going to crack on it. Pupil list. So a couple of things just for us to be completely aware of. This Excel, which is called, this Excel workbook is called Excel for Musicians. It's actually auto-saving because it's saved in OneDrive. And what we have are sheets. So this is topics and this is pupil sheet. We can make new ones by hitting the plus for new sheet. We can also make duplicates and stuff like that. Hey Dan, if you've got any questions, let me know. So a couple of cool things for us that we might not be aware of. And again, I'm just kind of covering lots of things that are just off the top of my head. One of the really useful things is that we might have like, you know, version 1. Version 1. And, or in fact, you know, yeah, we might have version 1 and then we might want to make a copy of it for whatever reason. And a really, really underrated thing is just the fact that there's this create a copy thing. So we can go right click on the sheet itself and then we go move to end and create a copy. So for example, you might want to have a different version and that would be version 2. And we have version 1 and we have version 2. Another little thing that I keep, that people might not be aware of is that F2 enters the cell. F2 is the one, is how we can rename it or alter the contents of it, just like we hit F2 to change file names and stuff like that. So version 1, etc. So hi Dan, for example. All right, so we're going to get rid of all this. Incidentally, I mean, I'll probably do like a hotkey kind of thing, but like, yeah, shift clicking selects multiple things. All right, so pupil list. So the kind of goal for this is that we're going to be having, is that obviously this can be for pupils, but this could also be for clients. It could be for just contacts in general. It's just a really, really useful thing for us to have. Obviously, the most important thing for us to be aware of is GDPR stuff. So just make sure that you're being compliant. Make sure that you're following all the correct rules and regulations. In general, I tend to initialize names and make sure that that they can't be identified for anything else. There's some really nice write-ups of what you can and can't do to make sure that your data is anonymous. Anyway, so let's just go. So like A person, B another, C example. Okay, so we've got A person, B another, C example. One of the first things which is just good practice for us to be aware of, is that we now essentially have a table. There are lots of different ways that we can treat this. What I personally would just do is to just make this line bold, and then the most simple thing is just to go into data and then to go into filter, and then suddenly we have a filter. Why do we care? This filter will allow us to sort by various bits and pieces. So for example, we can just click here. So just the little button here will allow us to do stuff. We can also select specific names that we want to see, all this kind of malarkey, see that it's hidden B. And so we've got 4 to 6 instead of showing 5. Okay, those select, etc., etc. We can also do all sorts of other, like, text filters and clever things like that. But the kind of first and foremost is that we have, headings and then a filter. You can, of course, make an actual table that's got all sorts of clever things to it, but I'm actually not going to do that for right now. So for me, I'm going to go and add instrument. I always think that's going to refresh the filter, but it doesn't, and that's okay. And you might have email, might have DOB. Well, we'll talk about DOB more or less just because it'll be good for formatting. Oh, and we'll have phone number. So again, the number one thing, obviously, with all of this is make sure that your data is compliant with GDPR stuff. So assuming that it is, then we're just going to continue with this. What we can do, in fact, I haven't done this for a while, but I think it's worth us doing this properly. Yeah, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but I'm just kind of going with the stuff that I'm interested in. First of all, we're just going to, again, adjust this filter, I think. No, it doesn't work. That's fine. Format painters are really, really useful. So we're going to go data, and we're just going to go, and we're going to click the filter to remove it. Oh, in fact, we could have just done reapply. I didn't realize that. That's fine. Anyway, and then this will put this all in, which is useful. We're going to do some data validation. So this is essentially the point where we start using Excel more as a database, and this can get a little out of hand, but it's done. Yeah, fine. So what we're actually going to have here is we're going to have a list of possible instruments. So here, in a separate sheet, we're going to put piano, guitar, bass guitar, etc., etc. And what we're actually going to do here, instead of just typing it out, is we're going to do a data validation. I haven't done this for ages, to be honest with you. I used to do this all the time, but I actually haven't for a short while. But we're going to go to data. So in data, data validation, settings, and then we go click on allow a list, and the source is here. Now this is some way that it's saying, look at the sheet pupil list values, exclamation mark, which tells us that it's a sheet. And then it's got an absolute reference to cells A2 to A4. So even before we just look at that, we're just going to explain the way that Excel looks at stuff, is the fact that this cell is cell A2. It actually tells us the reference in the top left. We actually can see that it's A3, A4, etc., etc. And what we've now done is we've gone and made a data validation, which is going to only allow our list, and it's only going to take that source. And now that'll only allow us to have piano, guitar, or bass guitar. Incidentally, notice that it's just in the order that that is in. In fact, if we sort this, that should now update. Yeah, and it updates. So the data validation, the actual list, is only showing what's there. And that's just really useful for us to be aware of. And once we've done that, oh, no, we can't. We just got to do that. Oh, can we not? Yeah, we can. Cool. I'm actually just going to double check to make sure that I've got this right. Hi, Aaron. It's great to see you if you're here. Aaron, if you've got any questions, like I know I'm jumping around a little bit, so please feel free to ask. Yeah, we do have to copy and paste it. So now that I've made this data validation, which says that I can only have one of the following things, we just do Control-C, Control-V onto the things that we want. Yeah, we can do all sorts of things like that. So notice, in fact, I just made a mistake. I just tried to type in a random symbol, but that doesn't match any of the bass guitar, guitar, or piano ideas. So that's why it's not letting me do it. So I can retry, and I can retry until the day I die. But we can freely type piano. We can do that, but we can't have bass. We've got to have... Oh, that is actually pretty annoying. I'm not going to lie. We can't actually click on here once we've started typing the word bass. We have to actually get rid of it and then go and click and have bass guitar, which is actually a little irritating, but that's by the by. So just to kind of repeat what I'm doing then. So we're going to have grades. And we're going to have pre 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 plus, for example. Which we're going to call pro for whatever reason. I'm more or less just doing this because it shows that we can use both numbers and we can use text, and that's all fine. So I'm going to click on the grade. I'm going to go data. Go data validation, allow a list, the source of that list, any of those. So again, notice it's looking at pupil list values, B2 to B11. We might cover what these dollar signs mean later on, but probably not for today. Ignore blank in cell dropdown. Yeah, that's all fine. So this person's 4. Oh yeah, we have to then copy and paste this to 8. Yeah, a little kind of random thing. I used to get super obsessed with hotkeys all the time. Alt and up or down allows you to access your menu. In fact, if we're going back to here. Oh, how weird. That's really strange. So it was bass, and then this will only allow me to change that. That is very strange. Anyway, who cares? It doesn't really matter. Email is pretty self-explanatory. We just type that. Date of birth. Okay, we're actually going to do phone number first, and then we'll do date of birth after that, for a relatively specific reason. One of the things that catches people out all the time with phone numbers is if you type, for example, if I type a phone number, it will not have the 0 at the beginning of it. And it'll actually, good luck, love you. My partner's just gone out for a run because she's a legend. One of the things that people miss out with phone numbers, or with numbers in general, is the fact that 0 gets removed. And they're like, why is that gone? And that's because Excel's trying to be useful, and it's trying to go like, oh, that's a number. And, you know, if you don't have the number, if I have the number 100, if I wanted to put 0, 100, why would I have that 0 at the beginning of it? So it gets rid of, like, leading zeros. If we want to keep those leading zeros, we actually have to do an apostrophe. And then it's going to kick off, and it's going to go, the number in this cell is formatted as text or preceded by an apostrophe. That is correct. Ignore error. That's actually really annoying. Like, that's a fairly standard thing to do. I'm sure you can probably turn off that message, and that's by the by. Yeah, like, this doesn't mean anything. The other way you can do it is that if you go into home, and where it says number, there's a drop down, and if you go into text. Oh, is that still kicking off because of the apostrophe? That's so weird. I really, really dislike that, actually. Anyway, Dan's saying, wow, I'm interested by what is wow, and if I can help in any particular way. Oh, that's so strange. It's automatically putting those apostrophes, which is irritating. Or at least it's annoying just in terms of... oh, cool. So it's automatically doing that. It's fine. This is basically just me being a stickler for hating anything which looks like an error message when it's not an error message. Like, there's no reason for that. Oh, yeah, the number thing, that's really, really useful. I mean, obviously, the other thing that people do all the time is, the +44. And, well, I mean, that gets itself kind of confused. So actually don't do that. But yeah, the apostrophe before the 0 is, like, a big old deal. Date of birth. So this is where we get into like, dates. And this can go really, really wrong. So first of all, oh, dates, you'll be hilarious. Let's say I was born at the beginning of this beautiful year. Let me just check. Cool. Oh no, +44 is the area code of the UK. So for phone numbers, +44 is what you use instead of 0. So UK +44. Yeah, it's the United Kingdom country code, and all different countries have their own. So, for example, Afghanistan's is +93. Yeah. That's honestly what I was getting at, Dan. And hilariously, Excel has like defeated me for that. What I personally do, I mean, yeah. So like, it's actually kind of interesting because if you put that. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And it's funny how Excel, again, is doing this. I can actually remove some of the error checking of this. And if I actually could be bothered, then I would just remove that error checking. But yeah, I would, personally, I'd just do the apostrophe before. I think you can probably get away with doing something really, really dumb. If you've got a bunch of phone numbers and they've all been stored like that. I'm just kind of getting sidetracked, not kind of because I want to ignore talking about dates, but because this is sort of interesting to me. Let's say we just had a 0 equals. I'm just going to test out something first of all. Oh gosh, I haven't done this for a while. Hang on. Yeah. All right, cool. So I've got this to work. You may well have sheets where you've got all of your phone numbers and they've all got that leading 0 gone. A quick formula you can do, and they might just be numbers. So like, let's get rid of that. That's actually really funny. Oh, that's gonna kick off then. Are you? Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So just gonna show you what I've done. Go over to that. All right. So if we've got our phone number and if we've got it lost, if we've like already lost the leading 0, we can do a formula. So the formula would be equals, because that's how we show that it's going to be a formula. Concat, and then we open up our brackets, and then we put 0 as text, and then we put and then comma, and then we reference to the phone number. Why do we care? It converts this to text and it puts the 0 before it. And hilariously, it also doesn't have the error message. So, for example, I might have this and this. And suddenly I have the actual phone numbers. And what I personally probably do, because I'm super lazy, is just to hide the original one. So I wouldn't have to bother looking at it. So I just go straight A, B, C, D, E, G, like that. Yeah, you can do all sorts of things like that. We'll keep that for right now. I'm just going to put phone number with leading 0. Ta-da. We're just going to... Can we just reapply? I want to check if this works because I didn't think it did. No, it doesn't. That's fine. And then let's just keep going. So date of birth. This is where we start talking about dates, and dates get super confusing. What I personally do is just type in, so I will use my birthday, which is the 28th of August, and then I will cleverly disguise it. This will Excel does its best to work out what you meant. It will probably, it might automatically go to being US date rather than to UK, but I'm pretty sure there's just a preference you can do for that. And this is a date. And this is the most confusing thing of all, and I've talked about them before, but this is actually just a random number. That number being the number of days after the 1st of January 1970, I think. I haven't thought. Oh, 1900. We're not thinking about Linux time. So, yeah. So 1. In fact, what's 0? Oh, it's just the 0th of January 1900. Okay, cool. So Excel treats the number, like dates, as being every day after the 1st of January 1900. Lots of different computing languages do it in different ways. So Linux time, for example, is starting on 1st of January 1970. Yeah, anyway, so that means that if we know how many days we're not going to count how many days there are between the days of birth. So if I go to my fake birthday, then this will be the actual, like, if we looked at this as a number, it's that. And the more we understand that dates are just a number, and the format is just Excel's way of showing that, the easier our life becomes. This is definitely the case when you get into time, which is a huge faff. But it also means, for example, if we wanted the day after, for whatever reason, then it would be that plus 1. And, for example, if we wanted it the month afterwards, roughly give or take, you do 30 or 31, because it's just talking about those sort of dates. Or, for example, plus 365 would be the next year. And so, yeah, that's essentially how dates work. The emails are just fun. So, like, rich@richardjacksonmusic.com. Interestingly enough, Excel has actually automatically decided that I should be able to email myself. Cool. I do not want to email myself, but that is lovely of you. Yeah, so this is all well and good. We'll just do it. In fact, just because it's kind of fun to do, we'll make all of these into email addresses for no real reason, except that I haven't done it for a while, and it's fun to try. Dot and a dot person. Okay, so what we're doing is we're creating a text string, so we're creating a line based upon the values on the stuff on the left. I'm kind of just going to do this for fun. Whoops. I'm now going to copy and paste the same thing 100,000 times. All right. And we're actually going to make this lowercase as well. Okay. So I've just done a needlessly complicated thing, but I've done it pretty much to show a little bit about how Excel works. I hope you can see this, and I can't zoom in any further, and I'm sorry for that. So what's going on here is that this value, which is E4, is going to equal to lowercase of the stuff we're about to do. Okay, so everything we see is going to be lowercase. For right now, for ease, I'm just going to get rid of the lower. And what we can see here is that this cell is going to be equal to the value of A4, which luckily, well, Excel's super lovely in the way that it'll tell us these things. In fact, very quickly, I'm just going to open this up. Yeah, that's better. If we look here, the color coding is going to match up to what cell it's referencing to. So A4 and then B4. And what we're doing is we're going to combine the values with like our own text, for example. So A4 ampersand, which means that we're going to be doing a next thing. And then every time we want to add text, we have to put it in speech marks. So for example, I could do a whole bunch of dots and they're going to be there. Okay? Because what we're saying is take the value of A4 and take whatever in these speech marks and take the value of B4 and take whatever in these speech marks, which is at gmail.com, for example. Excel is actually really, really nice in terms of telling us what we are and what we have and haven't done right. We can then put this in lowercase because I just think it's going to be better for us. And the way that, I mean, we'll probably talk about functions and the way that formulas work in general later on, but pretty much the way that it works is that we have a function called lower, and lower, if we click on it, and if help works, lower function describes the function, the formula syntax and usage, converts all uppercase letters in a text string, so into a bunch of text, to lowercase. And so we would do it like that. So lower, and then open bracket, whatever you want to be looked at, close bracket. And that's essentially how a formula works. That's how a function works, which is taking in a variable. In this case, the variable would be text, and it's just going to be telling us, and we need text, that text is required, otherwise it won't work. I had a thought of something else that would have been useful. And oh yeah, so the other thing to be aware of is, notice how I've got A4 and B4. We just copy and paste. And this has changed the 4 into a 5 into a 6. So this is always going to go column row. So column, then row. So the column is A and the row is 4. When we're copying and pasting stuff, this is honestly like really, really useful. I think this will be the last thing that I'll probably cover for right now. What's really good for us to be aware of is the fact that when we copy formulas just like they are, and I paste it, say down to like, you know, so I'm pasting it, I'm copying it from row 4 and I'm putting it on row 10. It's kept the fact that it was looking at 4 and it's moved that down to the row that we're on. So it was looking at 4, it started on 4, and then we moved it down by 6. So it's gone to 10. And that's where we've got, and notice that's basically going like, so give me this empty cell and a dot, and then this empty cell, and then at gmail.com. And that's why we just get the answers at gmail.com. Just cool stuff for us to be aware of. If we want to, but the point of this is that if we then say, for example, if we move this to here, it would look all weird. In fact, this is also messed up as well, because this is telling us person and piano. Incidentally, I'm hitting F2 to edit the formula, and that then like sorts out all the color coordination and stuff like that. So notice here, the formula is column A and then column B. Because I've moved that across, it's also moved that across to the next columns. So it's moved it to B and to C. That's called relative references, because it is going, you started off with your on this cell and you've moved me over here, so I'm going to move what I'm looking at with it, which is super useful. But we don't necessarily want this all the time. We actually might want it to always be A4 and always to be B4, no matter where we are. See, that's always a person. And the way we do this is by putting $ in front of the column and in front of the row. So notice those $ have appeared, whereas previously they were not there. And the way that you can do that is if you click on a reference in the formula and then you hit F4, that'll actually cycle round relative and absolute references. So this is a relative reference because it can be moved. This is an absolute reference, which means that it will always be column A, row 4. And if we hit F4 again, it'll say, okay, you can like have the relative column, but the absolute row, or the absolute column and the relative row, and it actually cycles through these things. This is going to feel really weird to just kind of watch, but honestly, this happens all of the time, and it's so useful to be aware of. So now, with everything being absolute, all of these email addresses are always looking here. They're just, that's just what they are doing. So if we wanted to have them being relative, which is what we do because we want them to actually change depending on what row we're on, we just go through and remove those $. And in fact, if you wanted to be super picky about stuff, and if you knew that your answer was always going to be in A, yeah, that's right. We might want to say, for example, put this formula Yeah, of course, stuff is weird. Sorry, there are occasional flies and stuff, which is probably an old banana's fault, but we'll sort that out later on. Yeah, notice how if we copy and paste stuff, the references will change. But I might always want it to be A, so I'm going to only make the column relative. Column being absolute, and I'm going to make the second one absolute as well. And we're left with this, which if I copy it or paste it, it's always going to be looking in column A and column B, for example. Yeah, so let's get rid of all of this chaos and let's recap what we've done. So, in today's debacle of a lesson, feels weird teaching. Haven't thought about teaching for a while. And we'll just go here. Okay. So, the kind of things we've learned then is how to make a new sheet, how we can make filters to help us with actually like ordering stuff around. Like, honestly, this kind of like sorting by is super useful. We did some relatively complicated stuff by adding in data validation based on a list, which we did here, pupil list values. Boop. In fact, just to show, we can just have those being bold at the top. We've done the same for grades. We've made some email addresses. We've talked about relative and absolute references. We even talked a little bit about how functions work, like lower and stuff like that. We talked about phone numbers being weird, like numbers being weird in general, and ways that we can just add a zero, either using like things like concat or by putting an apostrophe and a zero at the top, in which case we wouldn't need to do that. If I were working on this seriously, I would just get rid of like this error message because that would do my head in, and I don't know why it's doing that every single time. And then we also talked a little bit about how dates work. So, 27. So the fact that this is actually the number of days after the 1st of January, 1990. And the more that we know that dates in Excel are just numbers and a day is one, the more our life will be much easier the more we recognize that. Especially when we do with time, because that works in exactly the same way. Yeah, and so I hope that at least some of this has been useful in any kind of way. Obviously, whenever you deal with stuff like pupil lists, then make sure that you're GDPR compliant, all that kind of good stuff. I guess the last thing that I'll show is you might have accidentally, like, have everyone, like, you might accidentally have put everyone's actual, like, full names. And just to very quickly show, say you had, like, 1,000 of these. So full name initial. Just very quickly, just to round off, a thing you can just do, just to take the first, just the first character, is just to do something like this. So it's looking at the left of this, and it's taking the first character. And what I tend to do is then copy and paste the values of that formula. And that's a really subtle thing to be aware of. If we just copy and paste, then it'll just have a bunch of errors because it's still trying to work out. And this is going, I want to look here and take the first character of this. This hash reference is just an error message, basically. And this, because it was already looking in column A, you've moved it 2 columns to the left, and it's like, that doesn't exist. So what you actually have to do, a really, really, really useful thing to be aware of is that when you copy, you copy as normal, and then you can paste, right-clicking, and then values is your best friend in the world. And then this is no longer like the full name. You have replaced it with just the initial. So to quickly initialize people's names, that is something which is pretty invaluable. Anyway, yeah, I hope this has been interesting. This has been 33 minutes of your time. And I hope you have a most wonderful 2021. And I hope to see you soon. So take care of yourself.